All right, so we are now ready to continue our shingling process. And what we need to do is now think about our sidewall where our shingles are going up along our edge. So what we're gonna do is use what's called step flashing here. And what step flashing does is basically it acts like a step. So we have our shingles coming in here. We're gonna go ahead and put a piece down, and now that sits on this shingle. So now when our next shingle comes up, any water that gets along this joint here will run down this flashing and won't get into our side over here. So we'll lay one down, we'll put another shingle over it, we'll lay another step flashing over that, and keep alternating that process. And as we continue, you'll kind of see how that flashing works in conjunction with each other. So we got this shingle here. I'm gonna go ahead and bend this guy around, make a nice little bend here. And it really pays off to try to get these bends nice and crisp, because as you're coming back with your siding trim or any type of trim, it's gonna help out to have a nice clean trim line here. So go ahead and put this first piece in place. And again, I'm gonna try to nail as high as possible on here, because I don't want to get anywhere near that seam there. Using roofing nails again. And I'll go ahead and put one in the front here. All right, so that's sitting flat. So now we're ready to bring this next row into the side here. So we got our next shingle, and I'm gonna continue up this ladder. We don't quite hit that yet, so we're not gonna pay too much attention to that flashing quite yet. So we'll get this shingle in. So again, I'm matching up. We're on that second row now, so we don't have that chalk line. So we're using that lip of the architectural part of the shingle as our guide. Go ahead and get this side. Now I'm just one person here, but if you had a shingling crew working with volunteers, you're going to have basically a nailer, which is the person that's going to go ahead and nail off the shingle. You're going to have one person going along setting down the new shingles for you, so you don't have to keep stopping every time. And then you can have a cutting crew that's going ahead of you and cutting all your pre-cuts. And it makes everything kind of flow smoothly if you have all those people together. So now you can see I kind of reached the top of my stair here. And I know a lot of people like to put that last little 8-inch shingle up there. I'm not a big fan of it. I don't like having small shingles if I can help it. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop with the pattern right there. We'll nail this off, and then we can start with a full shingle again and start that pattern over. All right, so like I said, we could start with another full shingle and start that pattern of every 8 inches, creating that new stairs. But what I'm gonna do next is kind of focus on this gable end here and show you how to properly shingle it. So again, we got this first piece of step flashing in, and we can go ahead and cut this little piece here. Well, I'll look for a scrap. I think I have an 8-inch piece somewhere. Yep. So I can go ahead and make a shingle out of this. And what I'm gonna do is go ahead and just measure this by hand. Looks like I have a good 2 5/8. One thing to remember is we want to keep our factory edge, both our factory edges together. So if I have a scrap piece like this, I want to make sure I know which side was the cut edge. This side I had cut off, so it's not perfectly straight. I have a few little nicks here. I could try to get that a little bit more straight and it would work decent, but whenever possible you want to try to get your factory edges together. So I'm going to take that measurement off this side, the factory edge side, and go ahead and cut this shingle. And when you need a straight cut, you can actually just take your speed square here and use that as a guide. I just lost my line. There it is. And this is going to be a finished edge now, so you want to make sure you take your time and make a nice clean cut. Okay. So now we have our shingle. It's going to be placed in this little spot here. So we're nice and tight up along this edge. We're flush with our bottom, and we'll go ahead and use a nail and tack it in place. Okay, so if you can see here, that piece of step flashing ends right about here. So that's protecting this portion from here to here of this gable sidewall. But now we need another piece of step flashing, and you can kind of see how this flashing works now. So this piece of step flashing ends about right here. So this piece is going to overlap that now about 2 inches. And it's going to be the same process. We're going to put this down, and now a new row of shingles can overlap this. And we'll keep alternating shingle and step flashing, and that'll create a nice stair effect for water to shed off in this little crevice here. So we'll go ahead and put this guy on. Again, I don't want to nail in the roof surface or anywhere near that seam, so I'm going to nail up high. And I'm also making sure that this piece of step flashing is above that notch in the architectural shingle that we're going to line up. So it's hidden with our next shingle. Get a nail in the back. Alright, sit nice and flat, and we can take a measurement for our next shingle. We'll go ahead and get that put in place, and then we're going to continue on up this sidewall. And we're also going to do some step flashing along this fascia here, and get up to the point where we'll have to start thinking about this pitch of the roof. So we'll go ahead and get those shingles in place following that same pattern of the stairs over here, aligning it up with the notch of our shingle ahead of it, and get up about midway of this roof.